This is the make or break year for Brent Venables at Oklahoma. In 3 years with the Sooners, he's just 22-17 with 2 losing seasons and is 0-3 in bowl games. His first year in the SEC did not go as planned. Despite the upset win over Alabama, the Sooners still finished 6-7, and it ended with an embarrassing, disappointing, shocking, blown lead loss to Navy in their bowl game. But the Sooners have a new quarterback and a new offensive coordinator. With those two combined, this has to be the year that Venables and the Sooners turn it around. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. Ready to break down the Oklahoma Sooners as we approach the start of spring ball and get closer and closer to the start of this college football season. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to our expert picks, home to our newsletters, home to tons of exclusive content to help you get through this offseason. Again, here at the Gridiron Expert, the season never dies, it never ends, and we keep saying that in every single video. Soon it's going to be the season's here. The season never dies, it never ends. The seasons are going to be here very, very soon. Only a few months out from the start of prediction season here at our channel, so stay tuned for that. But we want you to take advantage of it and become a member of our GE Nation today. So, obviously, this transition for Brent Venables has not gone so well. He was a brilliant defensive mind, a phenomenal career as defensive coordinator at Clemson, comes over, first head coaching gig with the Sooners, and it just hasn't panned out well. Again, 2 losing seasons in 3 years. It's not acceptable for Oklahoma. And they are now playing in the big, bad, mighty SEC. And they just saw their bitter rival in Texas go all the way to the college football playoff semifinals while they were stuck with a 6-7 record. Something's got to give because these type of seasons are not acceptable by Oklahoma standards. And I think things could change for them a little bit. I'm not saying national title contenders, but more success in 2025. And here's why. Oklahoma last year on offense ranked 15th in the SEC, second to last in the conference in scoring offense and total offense. They averaged just 24 points per game. They averaged just 331 yards per game. They really did not have consistent quarterback play. Jackson Arnold up and down, Hawkins up and down. They didn't have the stability at quarterback, the explosiveness on offense to keep up with the SEC and to compete against these SEC defenses. But now they bring in a new offensive coordinator, Ben Arbuckle from Washington State. And who does he bring with him? The former Washington State quarterback, John Mateer, who ranked fifth nationally in total offense last year by himself. Threw for over 3,100 yards, 29 touchdowns, and just 7 interceptions. Also rushed for over 800 yards and 15 touchdowns. Mateer had 44 total touchdowns that led the entire nation. And again, 3,965 yards of total offense was 5th in the entire nation. So the Sooners are getting a dangerous dual-threat quarterback. They're pairing him with his offensive coordinator who helped him have that type of breakout season last year with the Cougars, who, by the way, didn't really have a conference last year. The Pac-12 dissipated, so it was just kind of like Washington State and Oregon State on a free-for-all. They've got all that talent there at quarterback and with the offensive mind, and then they've got some talent outside of that, right? A major reason Oklahoma struggled last year, as we mentioned, I mean, it was bad quarterback play, but it was also the running back core was injured. The wide receiver core was decimated with injuries. They just didn't have the guys and the health and the consistency to keep up on a week-to-week basis. But now entering 2025, it appears that the running back core is significantly deeper, a lot of depth there. The wide receivers, as we mentioned last year, were hit with injury after injury after injury. Hopefully not going to be the case this year. Deion Burks, who was the number 3 wide receiver last year for the Sooners, does return, had 245 yards and 3 touchdowns. That tells you everything you need to know. The guy who ranked 3rd on the team in terms of yardage only had 245 yards. Receivers weren't doing much because the quarterbacks weren't good and the receivers couldn't stay healthy. But he does return. They also add the speedy wide receiver and Isaiah Satania from Arkansas, who had 491 yards and a touchdown last year. I think you can utilize him in a lot of different packages. The Razorbacks failed to utilize him in the right way. I expect Arbuckle will utilize him in the right way. The defense, on the other hand, so that's the offense. You got a dangerous dual-threat quarterback, solid running back depth, better offensive line because the offensive line was a major concern last year and was not very good. Should be better in 2025, and then better receivers and hopefully more health at receiver. Then defense is, in theory, in better shape despite the loss of their linebacker, Danny Stutzman. You lose your anchor on defense, you lose your leader. That's a huge blow for any team. But outside of him, and outside of that, the Sooners look pretty well put together. They've got a lot of talent at all three levels, even added Marvin Jones Jr. in from Florida State on the defensive line, a defensive line that I expect to be very strong this season. Oklahoma, roster-wise, is better put together than I think people realize. They've got a lot of talent. And again, I think John Mateer is going to be a nightmare for these opposing SEC defenses to go up against. Because it's not just because he's got an accurate arm, it's because of his dual threat capability that makes him so dangerous. Expect him to put up some big-time numbers in 2025. But here's where things get difficult for the Sooners. The talent appears to be there. I don't think Venables is a bad coach. I think he's been dealt some rough hands across the board. But the schedule for the Sooners is absolutely brutal. And I really feel like somehow, I don't know why or how, what it is, but the Sooners have gotten robbed in the sense of Texas. Their SEC schedule has been so favorable the last 2 years. The Sooners has not. Oklahoma's SEC schedule has been brutal the last 2 years. The Longhorns have not, and I'm not saying that's the reason Texas has thrived and Oklahoma hasn't, but it does play a bit of a role. Here's the thing. We talk about this new look offense. We talk about this new look team for the Sooners. You're going to see what this team's made of right off the bat in week 2. Cruise past week 1, but in week 2, they host Michigan. So a Michigan team that finished the season strong, has a generational quarterback perhaps in Bryce Underwood coming in, his first true test for the Wolverines, but a Michigan team that finished the year with wins over Ohio State and Alabama now comes to Norman in week 2. That's going to be a massive measuring stick to see where this Oklahoma team is at. And then 2 weeks later, they host Auburn, potentially Auburn led by Jackson Arnold, who was the former quarterback at Oklahoma last year. If you're Oklahoma, you have to be 3-1 or better heading into October. You have to find a way to split the Michigan game and the Auburn game. Both those games are at home. Both those games are winnable. I fully believe that. But you cannot afford to drop both. The Sooners have to win one if they want to even have a remote chance of having a successful season. Because after that, and I know Auburn's a conference game, but once you enter October, the bulk of conference play starts, and it's just brutal. I mean, it's just terrible. They play Texas, of course, and Dallas. They go on the road to South Carolina. They host Ole Miss. On the road to Tennessee. On the road to Alabama. Ending the year with home games against Missouri and LSU. So they pretty much play all the top dogs in the SEC, right? They're playing Alabama. They're playing Ole Miss. They're playing Texas. They're playing Tennessee. They're playing LSU. And people don't consider South Carolina a top dog in the SEC, but this is a team that was really, really good in 2024 and will more than likely be even better in 2025, and they have to go to Columbia for that. So, I mean, at South Carolina, at Tennessee, at Alabama, 3 brutal road games, the neutral site game against Texas, a non-conference game against Michigan. I mean, I'm just looking at the schedule, I'm like, golly, man, this is just, it's brutal. It's hard. You look at Texas, and they're playing Kentucky, Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, no one really that tough, and Oklahoma's getting all the top dogs. Texas avoids all the top dogs. Oklahoma gets all the top dogs, with the exception of Georgia. It's a tough schedule. And you have to be realistic looking at this and saying, with all the new pieces that Oklahoma has and the disappointing season they had last year, this is not a team that's going to go from 6-7 to 10-2. It's just not going to happen. I think if you're an Oklahoma fan, a realistic expectation can maybe be 8 wins, right? I think 8 wins would be a phenomenal year considering the changes and the hand you were dealt from a schedule standpoint. This is not a year where Oklahoma will go and compete for an SEC title. This is not a year where they're going to go compete for a playoff spot. But this is a year, and the goal, and they're not going to voice this to the media, but this is a year where Brent Venables and his staff have to say, we've got to come out of this with a winning record. We have to finish the regular season at least 7-5, and that's not great, but at least 7-5 to save some face. 7-5, 8-4, great year. Anything after that is a miracle. But I think the goal for Oklahoma needs to be clinching a winning season in the regular season. If not, this could be the last year for Brent Venables in Norman. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to our expert picks, home to our newsletters, home to tons of exclusive content to help you get through this offseason. Because again, here at our channel, the season never dies. Talking college football with you year-round. We want you to take advantage of it, become a member of our GE Nation. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.